Let's get more on the story. We can speak to Thomas Lippman, who is an author and journalist specializing in Saudi affairs. He is currently in Washington, D.C. Thomas Lippman, many thanks for speaking to us on TRT World. Trump clearly in a very tricky position here. On the one hand, he's trying to look like he's being tough with Saudi Arabia by sending Pompeo there. But the meeting itself between Pompeo and the Crown Prince, when you look at those images, all smiles, shaking hands, the optics don't look so great. It can't have gone down well back in the US with Congress.
No, but you have to keep in mind that there have been many times in the history of the U.S.-Saudi relationship when one side or the other did things or adopted policies that deeply infuriated the other. At the end of the day, the relationship has always survived because both countries find it useful. And I think the opinion here in Washington now, except among some members of Congress, is that that's what will eventually happen here. They'll find some way to get past this.
So when you look at comments like those of Senator Lindsey Graham today on Fox News, saying that the Saudi Crown Prince has to go, that he is a wrecking ball, you're saying he's isolated in that?
I think it's too soon to tell. There are still a lot of moving parts. We still don't have any official reports from any of the three governments, the United States, Turkey, or Saudi Arabia. The White House, President Trump, has not yet made up his mind how to deal with this, and he probably won't until Secretary Pompeo comes back and delivers his report. And so remember that members of Congress are all facing, a lot of members of Congress are facing the voters in about 3 weeks, and they strike poses of rectitude. Whether anything is actually going to happen is another matter.
I believe you knew Jamal Khashoggi, or you've met Jamal Khashoggi. What do you make of these reports that he was killed inside the Saudi consulate, a place which should be sacred for a citizen of that country? Not only was he not interrogated, according to reports, he was chopped up into pieces and his body removed from there. I mean, and he had done nothing wrong. He was a journalist.
Well, it depends on what you mean by nothing wrong. First of all, I'm still puzzled by the jurisdictional aspects of this. That is to say, my understanding of international law is that if there was a crime committed against Jamal Khashoggi, it was committed on what is legally Saudi Arabian soil. That is to say, inside the diplomatic mission in Istanbul, not in Turkey itself. But as for why Mr. Khashoggi was targeted by the Saudis, which I believe he was, that's not entirely clear. Washington, and there are plenty of people in Washington and London and in some other Arab countries who are Saudi subjects, who have been outspoken in their opposition to the monarchy and who have not been targeted in this way. I think part of Jamal Khashoggi's problem was that he was reaching a much wider audience and was developing a lot of influence here in Washington.
So you talk about the Saudi-US relationship. As you say, it has sustained a lot over the years, including more recently the war in Yemen, the boycott on Qatar. What do you think is keeping the relationship going to this extent?
Well, from the beginning, the two countries have found each other useful. Remember, the United States and Saudi Arabia really are as different as they could be from each other in language, religion, custom, history, social organization, style of government. How these two countries got to be partners is a long and very strange story. But from the beginning, they have found each other useful. And so I'll give you a good example. President Jimmy Carter made human rights a cornerstone of his foreign policy. But even he was deferential to the Saudis because he wanted something from them that he found very important, namely acceptance or endorsement of President Anwar Sadat's peace initiative and the Camp David Accords. And so he didn't want to alienate the Saudis. It's the same now. The United States wants Saudi Arabian cooperation on counterterrorism activities, on confronting Iran, on trying to exert some kind of stabilizing influence in the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia needs the United States for security reasons, for weapons, for protection, for military training. The two countries are more useful to each other than not.
Okay, good to speak to you and hear your thoughts. Thomas Lippman, author and journalist specializing in Saudi affairs in Washington, D.C.